The first light of dawn crept through the stained glass windows of Windsor Castle as Captain Marcus Bennet led the final assault against Lord Ashworth's forces in the Round Tower. Smoke hung heavy in the ancient corridors, and the acrid smell of gunpowder mixed with centuries of history. After 8 hours of desperate fighting, the battle for Windsor was reaching its climax. Marcus pressed himself against the cold stone wall as bullets chipped fragments from the medieval masonry. His radio crackled with reports from teams throughout the castle. Unit 7, East Tower secured. Hostiles eliminated or captured. Unit 4, Lower Ward clear. Moving to support main assault. The ancient castle had become a modern battlefield, but Marcus's forces were finally gaining the upper hand. The arrival of SAS reinforcements at 3 a.m. had turned the tide, bringing military expertise and heavy weapons to support the battered security teams. Captain, Sergeant Sarah Mitchell's voice came through his earpiece. We've restored power to the main systems. Lord Ashworth's communication network is down. Through the restored security cameras, Marcus could see the aftermath of the night's violence. The elegant state dining room showed signs of the struggle, with overturned furniture and bullet holes in priceless paintings. But the royal family and their guests were safe, evacuated to secure bunkers hours earlier. Captain Klaus Weber appeared beside him, his German uniform torn and stained but his expression grimly satisfied. The Chancellor is secure and requesting immediate evacuation to Berlin. This incident will require extensive diplomatic coordination. Marcus nodded, understanding the international implications. An attack on Windsor Castle during a state dinner would reshape European security policies for years to come. Status on Lord Ashworth? Barricaded in the upper chamber with 3 remaining associates. He's demanding safe passage in exchange for information about the broader conspiracy. The radio crackled with Lord Ashworth's aristocratic voice, now edged with desperation. Captain Bennet, surely you realize this operation extends far beyond what you've seen tonight. Arresting me won't prevent what's coming. Marcus grabbed his radio. Lord Ashworth, you have 1 minute to surrender unconditionally. After that, we're coming in. You're making a terrible mistake, Captain. The documents I've obtained prove that the monarchy has been perpetuating constitutional fraud for decades. The British people deserve to know the truth. Through thermal imaging, Marcus could see 4 heat signatures in the Round Tower's upper chamber. Lord Ashworth and his remaining accomplices were trapped with no escape route. Sergeant Mitchell, what's the status on Dr. Thornberry and the succession documents? Sir, she managed to secure the originals in the Royal Archives. Our preliminary examination suggests Lord Ashworth may have forged copies that could have supported his claims of constitutional irregularities. Marcus felt relief wash over him. If the authentic documents were safe, Lord Ashworth's political conspiracy would collapse along with his military operation. All units, prepare for final assault on the Round Tower. Hostiles are contained, but should be considered extremely dangerous. As SAS commandos took positions around the ancient structure, Marcus reflected on the night's events. The attack had been more sophisticated than anyone had imagined, involving months of planning, significant financial resources, and coordination with similar operations across Europe. The secure phone buzzed with an urgent message from Colonel Hartwell. Bennet, preliminary reports from Brussels and Berlin indicate their attacks were repelled with minimal casualties. Your success at Windsor appears to have disrupted the entire continental operation. Marcus realized that holding Windsor Castle had done more than protect the British royal family. It had prevented a coordinated assault on European democracy itself. Unit leader to all teams, the SAS commander's voice came through the radio. We have movement in the upper chamber. Preparing for breach. The final moments of the siege unfolded with military precision. Flashbang grenades shattered the ancient windows as commandos poured into the Round Tower's upper chamber. The sound of brief gunfire echoed through the stone corridors, followed by shouts of clear, clear, clear. Minutes later, Lord Ashworth emerged in handcuffs, his aristocratic composure finally cracked. The man who had tried to destroy the monarchy looked exhausted and defeated. Behind him, his 3 accomplices were escorted out by heavily armed soldiers. Captain Bennet, Lord Ashworth said as he passed, you've preserved a corrupt system that will collapse under its own weight. History will prove me right. Marcus looked directly into the traitor's eyes. History will remember that when the monarchy was threatened, the people sworn to protect it did their duty. As Lord Ashworth was led away, Marcus began coordinating the massive investigation that would follow. The castle would remain under security lockdown for days, while forensic teams processed evidence from dozens of crime scenes. Dr. Elizabeth Thornberry emerged from the Royal Archives looking exhausted but relieved. "Captain, the succession documents are secure, but we need to examine everything Lord Ashworth accessed over the past months. He may have compromised other historical records." The scope of the investigation was becoming clear. Lord Ashworth's conspiracy had infiltrated Windsor Castle's most sensitive areas, potentially exposing centuries of constitutional and historical documents to manipulation. Captain Weber coordinated the German Chancellor's departure while maintaining diplomatic protocols despite the extraordinary circumstances. "Captain Bennett, my government will be requesting extensive briefings on this incident. The coordination with attacks in other capitals suggests state-level involvement." Marcus understood the implications. The investigation would eventually reach into intelligence services across Europe, searching for the masterminds behind the coordinated assault on democratic institutions. As the sun rose higher over Windsor Castle, emergency vehicles and government officials began arriving in large numbers. The ancient fortress was transforming from a battlefield back into a functioning royal residence, though security would never be the same. "Sir," Sergeant Mitchell approached with a preliminary damage report. "Casualties are lighter than expected. 3 security personnel wounded, no fatalities among our forces. The assault team lost 7 members with 4 captured alive." Marcus felt profound relief that his people had survived the night. Protecting Windsor Castle had required them to fight against overwhelming odds, but their training and determination had proven sufficient. The royal family returned from the secure bunkers to survey their ancestral home. Despite the bullet holes and smoke damage, Windsor Castle remained standing. The monarchy had survived its greatest test in modern history. Throughout the day, Marcus coordinated with intelligence services to piece together the full scope of the conspiracy. Lord Ashworth had been recruited by a shadowy organization that sought to destabilize European governments through simultaneous attacks on their constitutional foundations. The investigation revealed financial connections to hostile foreign powers and domestic extremist groups. The attack on Windsor had been designed to trigger a chain reaction of political chaos across the continent. Captain, Colonel Hartwell arrived that afternoon with a team of senior officials. Initial analysis suggests this conspiracy reaches into the highest levels of several European governments. Your success here may have prevented a complete breakdown of the international order. As evening approached, Marcus found himself back on the battlements where the crisis had begun 2 days earlier. The Thames Valley spread out peacefully below, but he now understood how fragile that peace really was. Sergeant Mitchell joined him, looking out over the ancient walls that had protected Britain for nearly a millennium. "Sir, do you think they'll try again?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "They'll try different approaches, but tonight proved something important. When people are willing to risk everything to protect what matters, even the most sophisticated conspiracy can fail." The investigation would continue for months, unraveling networks of corruption and treason that extended across Europe. But the immediate crisis was over. Windsor Castle remained in the hands of those sworn to protect it. As night fell over the ancient fortress, Marcus realized that the guard had indeed taken control inside Windsor. Not through conspiracy or corruption, but through courage and unwavering dedication to duty. The monarchy would survive, and democracy would endure, because ordinary people had chosen to stand against extraordinary evil. The stones of Windsor Castle had witnessed many battles throughout their long history, but none more crucial than the night when modern guardians proved themselves worthy of their heritage. The crown was secure, and Britain remained free. The ancient stones of Windsor Castle trembled as explosions echoed through the outer courtyards. Captain Marcus Bennett crouched beside the massive oak doors of the state dining room, listening to the battle raging in the corridors beyond. His earpiece crackled with reports from security teams engaged in fierce firefights throughout the castle. "Control, this is Unit 12. We've lost the north entrance." Hostiles are advancing through the lower ward. Marcus pressed his back against the cold stone wall, his mind racing through tactical options. Inside the dining room, 200 world leaders sat in candlelit darkness, unaware that the fate of European democracy might be decided in the next hour. Captain Weber appeared at his side, his German precision evident even in crisis. The Chancellor is secure in the safe room beneath the kitchen, but we can't reach her support team. The entire East Wing is compromised. Through the dining room's windows, Marcus could see muzzle flashes lighting up the castle grounds like deadly fireworks. Lord Ashworth's assault force had brought military-grade weapons and night vision equipment. They weren't just trying to take hostages anymore. They were attempting to capture Windsor Castle itself. Sir, Sergeant Mitchell's voice came through heavy static. Thermal imaging shows at least 20 hostiles inside the castle perimeter. They've got the round tower surrounded. Marcus felt the weight of centuries pressing down on him. Kings and queens had defended these walls against foreign invasion for 1,000 years. Now it fell to him to prevent the monarchy itself from being destroyed by traitors from within. The secure phone in his jacket buzzed with an encrypted message from Colonel Hartwell. Reinforcements delayed. RAF squadron diverted to respond to similar attacks in Brussels and Berlin. You're on your own until dawn. The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. This wasn't an isolated attack on Windsor. Someone was orchestrating simultaneous strikes against European leadership across the continent. The scope suggested state-level planning with unlimited resources. Captain Weber, are you receiving communications from your government? The German officer checked his secure device with grim concentration. Nothing since the Chancellor was moved to safety. But, before communications were cut, my headquarters reported unusual military activity near several government facilities. Marcus realized they were fighting the opening battle of what could become a continental crisis. If Windsor fell, it might trigger the collapse of allied governments across Europe. A new voice crackled through the emergency frequency. Captain Bennett, this is Dr. Elizabeth Thornberry. I'm in the Royal Library with information you need. Marcus felt his jaw clench. The art historian who had vanished the previous day was still inside the castle. Dr. Thornberry, what's your position? I've been hiding in the archive vault since yesterday. I discovered what Lord Ashworth is really planning, and it's worse than you think. The transmission was weak and filled with static, but her fear was unmistakable. Marcus made a quick decision. Can you reach the Security Operations Center? I don't think so. There are armed men patrolling all the main corridors. But, Captain, you need to know about the succession documents. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. The succession documents were constitutional papers that determined the order of royal inheritance. In the wrong hands, they could be used to challenge the legitimacy of the monarchy itself. What about them? Lord Ashworth has been copying them for months. He's not just planning to take hostages. He's planning to force a constitutional crisis by claiming there are irregularities in the royal succession. The political implications were staggering. Even if they rescued the royal family, Lord Ashworth could use forged or manipulated documents to challenge their right to rule. The monarchy could be destroyed legally rather than through violence. Dr. Thornberry, can you secure the original documents? I'm trying, but the vault requires two-person authentication. I need someone with senior security clearance. Marcus looked around the corridor where his remaining men were taking defensive positions. He couldn't spare anyone for a mission into the heart of the castle while under siege. Hold your position. We'll reach you when we can. As he ended the transmission, the lights throughout the castle began flashing in a new pattern. Lord Ashworth was sending another signal to his forces. The radio crackled with the aristocrat's cultured voice. Captain Bennett, I trust you're beginning to understand the scope of tonight's activities. Perhaps it's time we discuss terms. Marcus grabbed his radio. The only terms I'm interested in are your surrender. Lord Ashworth's laugh was cold and confident. My dear Captain, you're thinking too small. Tonight isn't about hostages or ransom demands. Tonight is about reshaping the future of Europe. By committing treason against the crown, by preventing a weak and outdated monarchy from dragging Britain into irrelevance. The royal family you're protecting represents a failed system that has no place in the modern world. Marcus realized he was dealing with a true believer, not just a mercenary. Lord Ashworth genuinely thought he was saving Britain by destroying its constitutional foundation. You won't succeed. The castle is sealed, and reinforcements are coming. Are they? My intelligence suggests your government has rather pressing concerns in multiple locations tonight. I suspect you'll find help is not coming. The transmission ended, leaving Marcus to face the terrible possibility that they were truly alone. Through the dining room windows, he could see fires burning in the distance. Either reinforcements were fighting their way through, or other facilities were under attack. Captain Weber returned from checking on the Chancellor's security detail with disturbing news. Captain Bennett, my men report that someone has been accessing the castle's computer network from multiple terminals. They're downloading classified information. Marcus felt another piece of the puzzle click into place. This wasn't just about political manipulation. Lord Ashworth was stealing state secrets that could compromise national security for decades. Can we cut network access? We've tried, but they have administrative privileges. Someone gave them complete access to the castle's systems. The insider threat had been more extensive than Marcus had imagined. Lord Ashworth hadn't just recruited a few staff members. He had corrupted the castle's entire security infrastructure. A thunderous crash echoed through the building as something heavy struck the main entrance. Through security cameras that were still functioning, Marcus could see an armored vehicle ramming the ancient gates. All units, they're breaching the main entrance. Fall back to secondary positions. As his men repositioned throughout the castle, Marcus realized their defensive perimeter was collapsing. Soon they would be fighting room by room through corridors that had witnessed centuries of history. The sound of boots echoed through the stone passages as Lord Ashworth's assault teams advanced deeper into the castle. These weren't amateur conspirators anymore. They were moving with military precision and overwhelming firepower. Sir, Corporal Jenkins whispered urgently, movement in the service corridors. They're trying to flank our position. Marcus peered around the corner to see armed figures advancing through the shadows cast by emergency lighting. Their night vision equipment gave them a significant advantage in the darkened castle. Unit 6, can you reach the main electrical panel? Negative, sir. That area is completely controlled by hostiles. Marcus made a desperate calculation. If they couldn't restore full lighting, his men would be fighting blind against enemies who could see clearly. But he had one advantage that Lord Ashworth couldn't have planned for. Sergeant Mitchell, are you still in the Security Operations Center? Barely, sir. We've barricaded the entrance, but they're trying to burn us out. Can you access the castle's historical defense systems? There was a pause as Mitchell understood what he was asking. Windsor Castle contained ancient mechanisms that had been used to defend against medieval sieges. Some had been restored as historical curiosities, but others might still be functional. Sir, I can try to activate the portcullis system. If it still works, it could trap some of their forces in the lower ward. Do it. As Mitchell worked to activate centuries-old defensive measures, Marcus coordinated his remaining forces for what might be their final stand. The royal family was trapped in the dining room with 200 other potential victims. The German chancellor was isolated in a safe room that might not remain safe much longer. The sound of metal grinding against stone echoed through the castle as ancient mechanisms awakened. Somewhere in the lower ward, a massive iron gate was dropping into place, just as it had during medieval sieges. It's working. Mitchell's voice carried excitement and disbelief. I've trapped at least 6 hostiles in the courtyard. But Marcus knew that temporary victories wouldn't be enough. Lord Ashworth had planned this operation for months, accounting for every contingency except one. He hadn't expected the guards to fight with the same determination that had protected Windsor for 1,000 years. As gunfire erupted from multiple directions, Marcus realized the final battle for Windsor Castle was about to begin. Everything that Britain represented hung in the balance, and a small group of security professionals stood between democracy and chaos. The ancient stones that had sheltered kings and queens through civil wars and world wars would now witness whether modern guardians were worthy of their heritage. History would record whether the guards' control of Windsor proved strong enough to preserve the crown itself. The state dining room of Windsor Castle glowed with golden light from centuries-old chandeliers as 200 of the world's most powerful people took their seats for the historic dinner. Captain Marcus Bennett watched from the Security Operations Center as servers in pristine white uniforms began the elaborate service, each movement choreographed to perfection. What the guests didn't know was that half of those servers were armed security personnel. "Control, this is Unit 4. Came the urgent whisper through Marcus's earpiece. "Hayworth has entered the service tunnel beneath the dining room. She's carrying something." Marcus felt his stomach clench. The service tunnels provided direct access to the dining room's mechanical systems. From there, someone could disable lights, air conditioning, or worse. Unit 8, close off her exit routes. Unit 4, maintain visual contact, but do not engage unless she poses immediate threat. Sergeant Mitchell looked up from her monitoring station with concern. "Captain, I'm reading electromagnetic interference from the dining room area. Someone's jamming our communications." The timing couldn't be coincidental. As the first course was being served to the royal family and German chancellor, their enemies were beginning their assault on Windsor's security systems. "Switch to backup frequency. Alert all units that were moving to combat status." Lieutenant Rodriguez was tracking multiple signals on his electronic warfare console. "Sir, I'm detecting at least 3 jamming sources. Kitchen area, East Tower, and somewhere near the Round Tower." Marcus realized they were facing a coordinated electronic attack designed to blind their surveillance and disrupt their communications. This was military-level planning. Captain Weber moved to Marcus's side, his expression grim. "This pattern suggests a precision operation. They're not just trying to attack the dinner. They're trying to take control of the entire castle." Through the security cameras, Marcus could see the elegant dinner proceeding normally. The royal family engaged in polite conversation with the German chancellor while servers moved efficiently between tables. The contrast between the civilized gathering above and the security crisis below was surreal. "Unit 4 to control." The radio crackled with static. "Hayworth has accessed the main electrical panel. She's installing some kind of device." Marcus grabbed his personal radio. "All units, prepare for immediate power disruption. Emergency lighting protocols in effect." He turned to his technical team. "Can we isolate the dining room from any electrical sabotage?" "Working on it, sir," replied Corporal Davies from the engineering station. "But if she's accessing the main distribution panel, she could affect multiple systems simultaneously." The lights in the Security Operations Center flickered, then stabilized. Whatever Hayworth was doing, she was testing the systems before implementing her full plan. Captain Weber pointed to a monitor showing thermal imaging of the castle grounds. "Captain Bennett, we have movement outside. Multiple heat signatures approaching from the north." Marcus studied the display. 6 figures were advancing through the wooded areas surrounding the castle, using natural cover to avoid detection. They moved with military precision, suggesting professional training. "How did they get past the perimeter patrols?" "Unknown, sir. But they're carrying equipment consistent with assault weapons." The situation was escalating beyond Marcus's worst-case scenarios. They weren't just dealing with inside sabotage anymore. An external assault team was preparing to strike while the castle's security systems were compromised. "Unit 12, reinforce the north perimeter. Unit 15, establish overwatch positions on the Round Tower. We have multiple hostiles approaching." As Marcus coordinated the response to the external threat, the internal situation grew worse. The lights in the dining room began to flicker intermittently, causing concerned murmurs among the guests. The royal family maintained their composure, but Marcus could see tension in their postures. "Sir," Sergeant Mitchell called out urgently. "I've lost contact with Unit 4. Their last transmission was from the service tunnels." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. His people were disappearing into the castle's hidden spaces while enemies approached from outside. The ancient building that had protected the monarchy for centuries was becoming a trap. The secure phone rang with Colonel Hartwell's priority signal. Marcus answered while continuing to monitor the multiple crisis points. "Bennett, what's your status?" "Sir, we're under coordinated attack. Internal sabotage, external assault team, and communication disruption. I recommend immediate evacuation of the VIPs." "Negative. Intelligence services report this may be a larger operation targeting multiple European leaders simultaneously. Moving them outside could expose them to additional threats." Marcus cursed under his breath. They were trapped in the castle with nowhere to run. "Then, we hold our ground and neutralize the threats." "Understood. Additional support is en route, but you're on your own for the next 30 minutes. As Marcus ended the call, the lights in the dining room went out completely. Emergency lighting activated seconds later, casting eerie shadows across the elegant gathering. He could hear concerned voices through the security feeds as guests tried to understand what was happening. All units, execute Scenario 7. Castle lockdown is now complete. Scenario 7 was the most extreme security protocol, designed for siege situations. Every entrance would be sealed by blast doors. Armed teams would take defensive positions throughout the building. The royal family would be moved to the castle's secure bunker beneath the round tower. But implementing Scenario 7 while the dinner continued required delicate coordination. The guests couldn't be allowed to panic, and the royal family had to be protected without creating an international incident. Captain Weber was coordinating with his German team through encrypted communications. Captain Bennett, my men report unusual activity in the kitchen area. Someone is moving large objects through the service corridors. Marcus realized that whatever Hayworth and her accomplices had planned was entering its final phase. The power disruption was just the beginning. Unit 7, converge on the kitchen area. Use extreme caution. Suspects are armed and dangerous. Through the thermal imaging, Marcus watched the external assault team take positions around the castle's perimeter. They weren't advancing to attack immediately. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for something. The coordination between internal and external forces suggested this was more than just an assassination attempt. This was a carefully planned operation to take control of Windsor Castle itself. Sergeant Mitchell, try to re-establish contact with the dining room security detail. Sir, all communications to that area are being blocked. Whatever they've installed is completely jamming our frequencies. Marcus made a difficult decision. Captain Weber, I need your team to escort the Chancellor to the secure bunker. My people will handle the royal family. What about the other guests? They'll have to remain in the dining room until we can neutralize the threats. Moving 200 people would create chaos and expose them to greater danger. As the German security team began their discreet evacuation of the Chancellor, Marcus led a small group toward the state dining room. They moved through ancient corridors that had witnessed centuries of intrigue, but nothing quite like this. The dining room's double doors were closed, with 2 of his men standing guard. Through the crack beneath the doors, Marcus could see the glow of emergency lighting. Status report, he whispered to Corporal Jenkins. Sir, the guests are nervous but maintaining order. The royal family is aware of the situation and ready to move on your signal. But we've had no contact with the service staff for the past 10 minutes. Marcus realized that Hayworth and her accomplices had likely taken control of the kitchen and service areas. The royal family was surrounded by potential enemies. On my signal, we execute emergency evacuation. German team takes the Chancellor through the East Corridor. We take the royal family through the West Passage to the Round Tower. As they prepared to enter the dining room, Marcus's earpiece crackled with an unexpected transmission. Captain Bennett, this is Lord Ashworth. I believe we need to talk. The aristocrat's voice was calm and controlled, nothing like the bumbling manner he usually displayed. Marcus felt a chill of recognition. This was the voice of their primary enemy. Lord Ashworth, what's your position? I'm in the Round Tower, Captain, with some of your people who were attempting to secure the area. I'm afraid they won't be joining your operation. The implication was clear. Ashworth had captured or eliminated the security team that was supposed to prepare the royal family's evacuation route. Captain Weber appeared at Marcus's shoulder. The Chancellor is secure, but we discovered something troubling in her security sweep. Someone has been drugging the wine service. Several guests are showing signs of sedation. Marcus felt the full scope of their enemy's plan becoming clear. This wasn't just about assassination or taking hostages. They were planning to incapacitate the entire gathering and take control of Windsor Castle with its valuable prisoners. How many guests are affected? Difficult to say, but the symptoms suggest a mild sedative designed to reduce resistance rather than cause harm. As Marcus processed this information, the lights throughout the castle began cycling on and off in a deliberate pattern. It was a signal. Their enemies were announcing that they had achieved their objectives. The radio crackled with Lord Ashworth's voice again. Captain Bennett, I suggest you bring your remaining men to the Round Tower. We have much to discuss, and your position is becoming untenable. Through his earpiece, Marcus could hear sounds of conflict from other parts of the castle. His security teams were engaged in firefights with the external assault force that had penetrated the building. "Sir," Sergeant Mitchell's voice came through the static. "I'm reading multiple breaches in the outer perimeter. They've brought more people than we initially detected." Marcus realized they were facing a full-scale assault designed to overwhelm their defenses through superior numbers and coordination. The months of planning were paying dividends for their enemies. But Marcus had spent his career preparing for moments like this. The castle's ancient walls had defended against countless attacks over the centuries. Today, modern security forces would have to prove themselves worthy of that heritage. "All units, fall back to defensive positions around the state dining room. We hold this position until reinforcements arrive." As his team prepared for what could be their final stand, Marcus looked through the dining room windows at the peaceful countryside beyond. Soon, those same windows might frame the battle that would determine the future of the British monarchy. The Guard had taken control of Windsor Castle, but now they faced the ultimate test of whether their control was strong enough to prevent disaster. Dawn broke over Windsor Castle with an ominous red sky that seemed to mirror the tension building within its walls. Captain Marcus Bennett had barely slept, spending the night coordinating searches across Berkshire for Dr. Elizabeth Thornberry. The art historian had vanished completely, leaving behind only questions and a growing sense of dread. The Security Operations Center hummed with activity as overnight developments painted an increasingly dark picture. Sergeant Sarah Mitchell looked up from her workstation with exhaustion etched across her face. "Captain, we've found Dr. Thornberry's car abandoned near Heathrow Airport. No sign of her, but forensics discovered something troubling." She handed him a sealed evidence bag containing a small electronic device. Hidden under her dashboard, it's been transmitting the castle's radio frequencies to an unknown receiver. Marcus examined the sophisticated surveillance equipment. This wasn't the work of amateurs. How long has it been active? At least 3 months, possibly longer. Every security communication, every patrol schedule, every protocol change has been monitored. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. Their enemies knew everything about Windsor's security measures. Every plan, every contingency, every weakness had been exposed. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached with a folder of overnight intelligence reports. "Sir, there's more. The German advanced security team detected surveillance equipment at their hotel. Someone's been tracking their movements since they arrived in London." Marcus spread the reports across a table, trying to piece together the scope of their enemy's operation. The level of coordination suggested state-level resources or a highly sophisticated criminal organization. "Any word on Kellerman or Hayworth?" "Both reported for work this morning as usual," Mitchell replied. "They're under discreet surveillance, but we can't arrest them without more evidence." The secure phone rang, displaying Colonel Hartwell's priority code. Marcus answered immediately. "Bennett, we have a problem. Lord Ashworth's financial records show payments from offshore accounts totaling nearly £2 million over the past year." The colonel's voice carried a grim undertone. "We believe he's been recruiting assets within the castle for months." "Where is he now, sir?" "That's the problem. He's scheduled to attend tonight's pre-dinner reception with the German Chancellor. We can't move against him without solid proof, and arresting a member of the royal family would create an international incident." Marcus felt the walls closing in around him. Their primary suspect was about to have direct access to both the Chancellor and the royal family. "Sir, I recommend postponing the state dinner." "Negative. The decision's been made at the highest levels. The dinner proceeds as scheduled. Your job is to ensure nothing happens." As Marcus ended the call, he realized the full weight of his responsibility. Hundreds of lives depended on his ability to identify and neutralize threats while maintaining the facade of normal operations. The morning briefing with his expanded security team took place in the ancient curfew tower. 30 of Britain's finest military and intelligence personnel listened as Marcus outlined the situation. The room's medieval stone walls seemed to absorb the gravity of his words. "We're dealing with a coordinated infiltration that's been developing for months," Marcus began. "Our enemies have detailed intelligence about our procedures, our personnel, and our capabilities. We must assume they know everything we've planned." Detective Inspector Sarah Walsh from Special Branch raised her hand. "Captain, what's our assessment of the primary threat?" Marcus turned to a large screen displaying architectural plans of the castle. We believe they're planning to strike during tonight's state dinner. The presence of the German chancellor makes this a target of international significance. Agent David Chin from MI5 studied the floor plans. Any theories on their method of attack? Several possibilities. They could attempt an assassination during the dinner itself. They might try to plan explosive devices in advance. Or they could be planning to take hostages to extract concessions from the government. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the possibilities. Each scenario presented unique challenges that would test their capabilities to the limit. Our advantages, Marcus continued, are that we know there's a threat, we've identified some of their assets, and we control the environment. Our disadvantages are that they've been planning this longer than we've been investigating, and they still have active assets within the castle. Over the next several hours, Marcus's team implemented security measures that transformed Windsor Castle into a fortress. Every entrance was sealed except for 3 heavily monitored access points. Armed guards took positions throughout the state apartments where the dinner would take place. Electronic surveillance was increased to maximum levels. The German advance team, led by Captain Klaus Weber, brought additional complications. The efficient German officer insisted on personally inspecting every security measure, asking detailed questions about protocols and personnel. Marcus found himself caught between operational security and diplomatic necessity. "Your castle is beautiful," Captain Weber observed as they walked through the grand reception room. "But these ancient buildings present unique security challenges." Marcus nodded, trying to hide his frustration. "We've adapted our procedures to account for the architectural constraints. I notice you have several staff members under surveillance. Should this concern the Chancellor's security team?" The direct question caught Marcus off guard. German intelligence was clearly more aware of the situation than they had let on. "We're taking all necessary precautions," Marcus replied carefully. Captain Weber stopped walking and faced him directly. "Captain Bennett, my government has intercepted communications suggesting tonight's dinner is a target. We're sharing this information as a gesture of cooperation, but I need to know the full extent of the threat." Marcus made a quick decision. International cooperation could be crucial to preventing disaster. "We believe we have multiple assets working against us from within the castle. The threat level is significant enough that we've taken operational control of the entire facility." The German captain's expression grew serious. "Then, perhaps it would be wise to establish joint operational command. My team can provide additional resources and alternative perspectives." As the afternoon progressed, the combined British and German security forces worked with increasing efficiency. Captain Weber's team brought sophisticated electronic detection equipment that revealed additional surveillance devices hidden throughout the state apartments. The discovery of this equipment confirmed Marcus's worst fears. Their enemies had been preparing for this night with meticulous attention to detail. Every camera angle, every guard position, every potential escape route had been mapped and studied. Meanwhile, the discreet surveillance of Kellerman and Hayworth began yielding results. Kellerman had been observed making subtle modifications to electrical systems that would allow him to disable lighting and security cameras on command. Hayworth had been positioning additional catering equipment in ways that could provide cover for weapons or explosive devices. At 4 p.m., the first guests began arriving for the evening's events. Each arrival required individual security screening, background verification, and escort to designated areas. The process was complicated by the presence of international media, diplomatic security details, and royal protocol requirements. Marcus positioned himself in the Security Operations Center where he could monitor all activities simultaneously. Dozens of screens showed different areas of the castle, while radio chatter provided constant updates from roving patrols. "Control to all units." Marcus spoke into his headset. "Primary security protocol is now in effect. No person moves through the castle without escort and verification." The response was immediate. "Unit 7, acknowledged. Unit 12, standing by. Kitchen detail, confirmed." Lord Ashworth arrived at 5:30 p.m., elegant in formal evening wear and showing no signs of concern. Marcus watched him through security cameras as he greeted other guests with casual charm. If the man was planning treason, he hid it well behind aristocratic mannerisms. "Captain, Sergeant Mitchell called from her workstation. We've intercepted radio transmissions on an encrypted frequency. Someone inside the castle is communicating with external parties. Marcus hurried to her station, where she had isolated the signal. The transmissions were brief and coded, but their timing coincided with security movements throughout the building. Can we trace the source? We're trying, but they're using frequency hopping technology. Very sophisticated. Mitchell's fingers flew over her keyboard. Wait, I'm getting something. The signal is strongest near the kitchen areas. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Hayworth was working her final shift in the kitchens before retirement, with access to every service corridor and maintenance area in that section of the castle. Units 4 and 8 converge on the main kitchen. Discreet observation only until further notice. As evening approached, the state apartments filled with the world's elite. Diplomats, business leaders, celebrities, and politicians mingled in rooms that had hosted centuries of important gatherings. The formal atmosphere contrasted sharply with the tension among security personnel. Captain Weber joined Marcus in the operations center as final preparations began. The Chancellor has been briefed on the threat level. She understands the risks, but insists on proceeding with the dinner. Political considerations? The German-British trade agreement being signed tonight represents 18 months of negotiations. Canceling would have significant economic consequences for both nations. Marcus understood the pressure, but his concern remained focused on preventing tragedy. Captain, I need your honest assessment. If you were planning an attack tonight, how would you do it? The German officer studied the monitors thoughtfully. With inside assistance, I would disable security systems during the main course when everyone is seated and focused on the meal. Then, either introduce a weapon through the kitchen service areas or activate pre-positioned explosive devices. The assessment matched Marcus's own analysis, which means our critical time frame is between 8 p.m. when dinner service begins and 9:30 when the toasts conclude. Agreed. That gives us a 90-minute window of maximum vulnerability. At 7 p.m., the royal family made their entrance to the grand reception room. Their calm dignity impressed Marcus, knowing they understood the dangers but chose to fulfill their duties despite personal risk. This was leadership under pressure. The German Chancellor arrived moments later, accompanied by her security detail and diplomatic staff. The formal introductions proceeded with centuries-old protocol, but Marcus noticed every handshake, every movement, every person who came within arm's reach of the world leaders. All units, VIP packages secure and in position, he reported over the radio. As guests moved toward the state dining room, Marcus felt time accelerating toward the critical moment. Somewhere in the castle, their enemies were preparing to strike. The question was no longer if, but when and how. His earpiece crackled with an urgent transmission. Control, this is Unit 4. We have eyes on Hayworth. She's accessing areas outside her normal duties. Request instructions. Marcus looked at the monitors, showing Margaret Hayworth moving through service corridors with unusual purpose. After 30 years of faithful service, the grandmother was about to betray everything she had sworn to protect. Unit 4, maintain surveillance. Do not engage until we identify her objective. The next few minutes would determine whether Marcus had successfully protected Windsor Castle or whether the guard's control would prove inadequate against enemies who had spent months preparing for this moment. As dinner service began, Marcus realized that everything they had worked for now hung in the balance. The morning mist clung to the ancient stones of Windsor Castle like a shroud, but Captain Marcus Bennett barely noticed the weather as he strode across the courtyard. His military boots echoed against the cobblestones, each step measured and precise. At 35, Marcus had spent the better part of his adult life serving the crown, but today felt different. Today carried in weight that settled deep in his chest. The radio crackled to life on his shoulder. Control to Captain Bennett. Please report to the round tower immediately. Marcus pressed the button. Understood, Control. On my way. He quickened his pace, his mind racing through the events of the past week. Intelligence reports had been flooding in about a potential security breach within the castle walls. Someone with access to classified information had been feeding details about royal movements to unknown parties. The very thought made his jaw clench. Windsor Castle had stood for nearly 1,000 years, weathering wars, revolutions, and countless threats. It housed priceless artifacts, state secrets, and, most importantly, members of the royal family. As head of the castle's security detail, Marcus took every threat personally. The round tower loomed before him, its medieval stones bearing witness to centuries of history. Marcus badge scanned his way through multiple security checkpoints, each one more sophisticated than the last. The ancient exterior hid state-of-the-art security systems that would make military installations envious. Inside the secure briefing room, Colonel William Hartwell waited with a grim expression. The colonel's silver hair was perfectly groomed despite the early hour, his uniform immaculate. Behind him, large monitors displayed satellite feeds, security camera footage, and intelligence reports. "Bennett, good. We have a situation." The colonel's voice carried the authority of 3 decades in military service. "The breach we've been tracking has been confirmed. We have a mole within the castle staff." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Sir, do we know who?" "Not yet. But we know they have access to level 5 clearance areas. That narrows it down to fewer than 30 people." The colonel turned to the monitors. "What's worse, we've intercepted communications suggesting an imminent threat to the castle itself." The screens showed encrypted messages, phone records, and surveillance footage from around the castle grounds. Marcus studied each image carefully, his trained eye searching for anything out of place. "The intelligence services believe this isn't just about information gathering," the colonel continued. "They're planning something for this weekend during the state dinner with the German chancellor." Marcus's mind immediately went to the guest list. 200 of the world's most influential people would be dining within these walls in just 3 days. The security nightmare was beyond comprehension. "Sir, what are our orders?" Colonel Hartwell handed him a sealed envelope. "As of 0800 hours this morning, you and your team have full operational control of Windsor Castle security. All civilian staff movements are to be monitored. No one enters or leaves without your personal authorization." The weight of responsibility settled on Marcus's shoulders like a physical force. He had trained for moments like this, but the reality felt overwhelming. The royal family? Being briefed as we speak. They understand the gravity of the situation. The colonel paused. "Marcus, I need you to understand something. If there's an attack during the state dinner, it won't just be a security failure. It could destabilize governments across Europe." Marcus nodded grimly. "I understand, sir." "Good. Your first priority is identifying the mole. We can't secure the castle while we have a traitor feeding information to hostile forces." As Marcus left the briefing room, his secure phone buzzed with messages from his team leaders. Sergeant Sarah Mitchell, his second-in-command, had already begun implementing preliminary security measures. Lieutenant James Rodriguez was coordinating with local police forces. The machine was already in motion. Walking through the castle's corridors, Marcus saw his world with new eyes. Every servant, every guard, every maintenance worker was now a potential threat. The footmen arranging flowers in the state apartments could be photographing security cameras. The kitchen staff preparing meals could be mapping escape routes. His first stop was the Security Operations Center, a high-tech command post hidden beneath the castle's medieval foundations. Banks of monitors showed feeds from over 300 cameras positioned throughout the castle and grounds. Sergeant Mitchell looked up as he entered, her usually calm expression showing signs of stress. "Captain, I've pulled the access logs for all Level 5 personnel over the past month," she reported. "There are some interesting patterns." Marcus leaned over her shoulder to study the data on her screen. "What kind of patterns?" 3 people have been accessing areas outside their normal duties. Dr. Elizabeth Thornberry from the Royal Collection has been in the security wing twice in the past 2 weeks. Thomas Kellerman from Maintenance has badge scans near the royal apartments during his off hours. And Margaret Hayworth from Catering has been staying late almost every night. Each name sent a chill through Marcus. He had worked alongside these people for years. Dr. Thornberry was a respected art historian who had given him tours of the collection. Kellerman was a jovial Scotsman who always had a joke ready. Margaret was a grandmother who baked cookies for the security team. "Run deeper background checks on all 3, Marcus ordered. "Financial records, family situations, travel history. Everything." "Already started, sir. Should have preliminary reports within the hour." Marcus moved to the main monitoring station where Lieutenant Rodriguez was coordinating with external agencies. The young officer's rapid-fire Spanish mixed with English as he spoke to contacts across Europe. "What's the word from our allies?" Marcus asked. "The Germans are sending an advanced security team tomorrow. The French intelligence services have identified increased chatter about Windsor on encrypted channels. And the Americans are offering satellite support." Rodriguez pulled up a map showing the castle and surrounding areas. "But, sir, there's something else." Local law enforcement reported suspicious activity at a farm about 10 miles from here. "Someone's been using it to conduct surveillance of the castle approaches." Marcus studied the map. The farm sat on high ground with clear sight lines to Windsor's main gates. "Any idea who owns it?" "That's the interesting part. It was purchased 3 months ago by a shell company traced back to an account in the Cayman Islands. The money trail goes cold after that." The pieces were falling into place, painting a picture that made Marcus's blood run cold. This wasn't the work of a lone insider. They were dealing with a sophisticated organization with significant resources. His phone buzzed with a message from Colonel Hartwell, "Royal family briefing complete. They're cooperating fully but insisting the state dinner proceed as planned. Political implications too significant to cancel." Marcus cursed under his breath. Protecting the castle was challenging enough without politicians prioritizing optics over security. "Sergeant Mitchell, I want additional background checks on every person who will be working the state dinner. Caterers, servers, musicians, everyone. If they're not essential, they're not coming in." "Sir, that's nearly 100 people." "Then, we better get started." The next few hours blurred together as Marcus's team worked with military precision. They established new protocols, repositioned security cameras, and conducted interviews with staff members. Each conversation revealed new concerns. Dr. Thornberry's financial records showed large deposits that coincided with her unusual access patterns. When questioned, she claimed to be researching a book about the Royal Collection's security history. Her explanation was plausible, but something in her manner set off Marcus's instincts. Kellerman's story was more troubling. His daughter in Glasgow had recently required expensive medical treatment not covered by insurance. The maintenance worker had access to building blueprints and electrical systems. He could disable security measures from dozens of locations throughout the castle. Margaret Hayworth's late nights coincided with increased communications traffic from the castle to unknown recipients. As head of catering, she knew every entrance, exit, and service corridor in the building. By afternoon, Marcus felt the weight of suspicion pressing down on him. 3 people he had trusted were now prime suspects in a plot that could endanger hundreds of lives. The situation grew more complex when Sergeant Mitchell discovered that all 3 suspects had received personal recommendations from the same source: Lord Frederick Ashworth, a minor royal cousin who served on the castle's board of trustees. Marcus had met Lord Ashworth numerous times at official functions. The man presented himself as a bumbling aristocrat more interested in horse racing than state affairs. But the connection was too significant to ignore. "Pull everything we have on Lord Ashworth," Marcus ordered. "Official duties, personal relationships, financial situation, everything." As evening approached, Marcus found himself walking the castle's battlements, looking out over the Thames Valley. The peaceful countryside belied the tension building within the ancient walls. Tomorrow would bring the German advance team, increased media attention, and heightened security measures. His radio crackled. "Captain, you need to see this." Marcus hurried back to the Security Operations Center where Rodriguez was replaying security footage from earlier in the day. The screen showed Dr. Thornberry in conversation with someone just outside camera range near the East Terrace. "Can we enhance the image?" "Already tried, sir. But look at this." Rodriguez switched to another camera angle that caught a reflection in a window. The person she's talking to appears to be wearing maintenance coveralls. The implication was clear. Their 3 suspects weren't working alone. They were coordinating their activities. Marcus felt a cold determination settle over him. "Lock down the castle. No one in or out without my direct approval. And bring in Dr. Thornberry for questioning." "Sir, she's not on the premises. Security logs show she left 2 hours ago." "Then, find her." As alarms began to sound throughout the castle, Marcus realized that their investigation had just become a race against time. Somewhere out there, Enemies of the crown were preparing to strike at the heart of the British monarchy, and they had inside help. The ancient stones of Windsor had weathered many storms, but this threat came from within. As Marcus coordinated the lockdown, one thought dominated his mind. Tomorrow would determine whether centuries of tradition would survive, or whether the Guard would truly take control of Windsor Castle. The radio chatter intensified as security teams moved through the corridors. Outside, armed police established perimeters around the castle grounds. The machinery of state security had awakened, but Marcus knew their enemies had been planning this moment for months. In the distance, church bells chimed the evening hour. Time was running out, and the real battle for Windsor Castle was about to begin.